Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sports Break. I am joined today by Gigi Mason, who is a three-time Olympic gold medalist in BD, first African American to win singles and all events gold for Team USA. She is a professional bowler on the PWBA Tour, and the founder of Got Game. Thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm so excited to dive into whatever we're going to talk about today.
That's right. And if you missed it, we've actually gotten to talk to Gigi before and had an awesome interview with her about her life and her career at Nebraska, I believe, right? Yes.
Yes.
Nebraska. And so definitely check that out. We'll put the links in the show notes. But what's been going on? Like tell listeners a brief snippet of who you are, and then we're getting into all the other stuff.
Yeah, so you really got into like the core, a little bit of who I am. But yeah, professional bowler on Team USA, Olympic gold medalist, and I have a total of like 10 Olympic medals. And so, yeah, last year was my first year on the women's tour, and this would have been my second year, but due to COVID, our season got canceled. So, now I'm here.
It's wonderful. I mean, we're happy to have you. We're so happy to have
you.
I did have some random bowling questions to ask.
Okay.
That's okay. Because I was trying to think of like saying something like, oh, on and off the court, but is it like on and off the alley, or like what's the phrase of like she's on the court, she's on the field?
Yeah. So it would be like on and off the lanes.
The lanes. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Lanes. Gosh, I even said it to myself. It's the lanes of the alley.
It's okay.
So it is on and off though, not in and out. On and
yes.
off the lane. Mm-hmm. Okay. Random trivia.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm is there any word on what the 2021 season is going to look like? Have they announced?
Yeah. So our season was canceled for 2020, but we were told that we're still going to have a tour 2021. So I mean, I'm kind of just going with the flow, and if I hear anything, I'm kind of just like I said, going with the flow. But we're supposed to have a 2021 tour. I'm not sure what COVID's going to do, next year or the following months to come, but that's really where we are so far.
Yeah, I mean, an indoor sport, that's got to be tough. Even out spectators, I'm sure it's just like they'd have to do what, like lane, empty. I mean, it'd be
exactly. There's a lot of variables. You're going to different states. All the different states have different COVID rules and spectators, and it's just a lot.
Yeah. Do you think they could do like a bubble, like for a month you're all at one location and playing in one alley?
I'm not sure, because then it's like when we leave the bowling center, it's just like they don't have control of where we can go. So I feel like that's the hardest part. I mean, because like the NBA, like they have everything in their big bubble. We would have to like, if we had a bubble, like spectators wouldn't be able, or anyone wouldn't be able to come in that area that we're in. But that would be very difficult, I think.
It'd be
unless
weird, but
it was built for us, then that would be okay.
Right. All right, so, calling all investors. Who's gonna sponsor the PWBA Tour next year?
Yes.
Opportunity. It's awesome to watch. I love watching
so much.
it. So
thank you.
Hopefully I'll get to one, when it's all safe and sound to do so.
Yes.
So I mean, you are a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I think for this podcast specifically, you're our first professional athlete, and it's a bit different because we want to acknowledge you and like the amazing things that you've done. And again, go check out that other podcast where we talk all about it. But like, we also just want to talk about like you as a fan. So not so much what you've accomplished, but just like what is it you love about sports?
Yeah. Man, sports is like the pressure. I love the pressure situations, like being in them, but just like watching them, like watching it as a spectator, it's so intense. It's just like, trying to put yourself in that situation, whatever sport it is, even though I'm not, as knowledgeable. Like I'm not an athlete in the WNBA or softball, but just like, oh, what would I do if I was in that position type of thing. But I just think one of the greatest things is the pressure situations and seeing how the top athletes, the elite athletes, like handle themselves during those difficult time or pressured situation times.
Yeah, I wonder if it's I'm sure it is a unique perspective from another professional athlete watching other sports. It's like, dang, yeah, like, I mean, I bet there is just some part of you that's just thinking like how to like learn maybe from people who are under pressure or anything like that. Is there a moment in particular that you remember of just like, wow, I just like went to school here looking at this or watching this.
Oh, something
Or a
off the
person.
top of my head. The first thing that literally just came to my mind is I can't remember what year, but it's when I think LeBron was with the Cavaliers and they like had came. I think they were playing Golden State or no, either Golden State or it was Oklahoma. I'm not really sure, but they were down and they came back and they won that game. Then they won the series. But I was just like, it's really never over until like it's over. I'm just like, that was just amazing to watch.
No, that's awesome. I feel like I do feel like some of those situations of whether you're on the free throw line or a penalty kick. Oh my gosh, I get so nervous watching penalty kicks in soccer. And like for you guys too, it's the difference of, it's also the beauty of individual sport, team sport that can become an individual performance.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like because anything can happen, and I think that like at least what I learned from my first year on the women's tour and how I can see it being applied to like other sports that I watch, it's just like it doesn't matter how hard you work, that doesn't always equate to a win. And that's something that I kind of struggled with my first year because I'm like, I'm working so hard and like, where are the results? Like, I was getting better as the season went on, but it's just like, I wanted to win right away. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's a process. And then, just applying it to the other athletes and other sports and how, kind of, for example, when we were just speaking about LeBron James, like last year, his first time on the Lakers, it's just like the building year, and then they come back, and then it's just like, they're playing for not national championship, but the championship. So
World championship, someone
yeah,
said.
world championship. Yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's true. It's so true. And there are those lulls that have got to be so hard. Like, yeah, the waiting time, or like for people who are coming back from injuries, that time has to be so frustrating, I would bet, for an athlete who's like, I want to see results. I don't know. I just feel like that's definitely unique. Have you seen like have you been through injury? Are there certain times that you're like watching an athlete's journey through that and you're kind of learning from that as well?
I haven't had an injury, thank God,
Yeah.
but I have watched, I think it was like KD. I think he had a documentary, and I think he got hurt before his recent injury before, and I was just watching it and just, like going through the process, and it's just like, it's a grueling, frustrating, like mentally exhausting process, but it's just like you can't cut corners and you just have to kind of go through it because there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just, just to see that and to see people not quitting throughout injuries. And it's just cool to see when they're, they come out and they're successful and they're just dominating. It's just like, I remember that time when you were struggling and you had an injury, but like, look at you now. So
I mean, even as non-professional athletes, like it's so inspiring. Just like you're the casual fan, I think there's so many journeys that people have gone on. It's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like they just put in the work, do what you can today.
exactly.
Today, and it's so inspiring. I think,
Exactly.
and it can teach us all so much. I mean, I think you've already hit on a couple of amazing things that we learn through sports. Did any of those help you in founding Got Game? Like, let's chat a little bit about Got Game and how, like, off the lane, you've been able to like take some of those lessons.
Yeah. So, for those who, if you didn't see the first podcast we did, Got Game is the company that my company I established in 2018, and it's just we have products and services that do some inspirational speaking, and it's really to promote and elevate the sport of bowling so that we have the equal opportunity as the traditional sports, NBA, the NFL, like tennis, and I would say some of those lessons that I've learned have definitely been applied because patience for sure is like number one. Um, like just starting out, at least 2 years ago, I had all these ideas and I wanted to do things right away. And it's just like, I just started, I'm like, I can't have or I see athletes and all the things that they're able to do. And it's just like, they've been doing it for so long that I'm just starting my professional journey. So I'm obviously not going to be where they are. And it's kind of the same with my company, like I'll see other athletes their companies or, their brands. And I'm just like, that's where I want to be. But, like I just started in 1-2, I'm in a non-traditional sport that many people don't even know is a sport. So that's another barrier or challenge that I'm working through as well. So patience would for sure be one. And also two, being disciplined, just knowing that I just have to be disciplined and consistent and just keep going because like uh, anything could change, like literally like this. All the things I'm working towards could literally happen tomorrow. And, if I wouldn't have stayed persistent, consistent and disciplined, like, I don't think it would happen. But those are for sure three: persistence, what do you call it? Patience and discipline, I feel like have helped me within, got game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're and talking to, I mean, just entrepreneurs in general, like anyone that's in the startup or like
Mm-hmm.
founder space. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Like it's just taking it one day at a time. And I mean, like
Yes,
even what they call, the unicorns, it takes years for them to get to the place where then they skyrocket, and I feel like
exactly.
people, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes people forget that things are built and not just appear. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, if you could, I mean, is there an athlete that you really love and admire and would love to see your platform become similar to what they've done?
So, at least the ones, who are alive, for sure, Serena and Venus, they're definitely people that I look up to. And actually during this like COVID, I mean, I guess we're still, the pandemic's happening, but I guess when quarantine was like, starting and things were really shut down, um, was watching Netflix, the Last Dance, of course, Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
And I didn't know too much about Bruce Lee. I mean, like I knew, a little bit about his story, but there's his series on Netflix and it's like maybe like 40 parts, like, but it's from the very beginning of his life to the end, and you get to see everything. And I was just like, wow. And so Bruce Lee is definitely somebody that I look up to. And after that, I started like reading some Bruce Lee books and yeah, Bruce Lee, I was like, Dad, like Bruce Lee is he's someone I look up to. He's like I admire him.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely Bruce Lee. And I don't think, I would have never probably said that before until I really watched and I just saw how dedicated he was and all the adversity he faced. He just did not quit. And and you could see in the series too that those who um what would be the term, who didn't give him a chance, they were kind of like, oh man, when he like blew up, they were just like, oh, kind of like butt kicking themselves in the foot, like, oh, why didn't we, like help him out or be a part of this? And he was just like, you had the chance, oh
Right.
well. So yeah,
That's so
definitely,
cool.
yeah.
And what a unique story. But also, like you were saying, you're in a unique sport and space. And
Hmm.
so, how cool is that?
Yeah, I just saw a lot of similarities between us, our stories, as well as like Michael Jordan, his story as well too. Like Bruce Lee was just trying to knock down barriers in martial arts. Because the thing about it, it was just so divided between the different like cultures, like Korean martial arts, and then Japanese, and then Chinese, and he's just like, we really are just one whole. Like, don't be so separated. Just his journey, how he was able to make it this global thing. I feel like that's something I'm working towards. And it was just so cool to see. I'm like, oh, whatever happened in his series, I'm like, okay, that's happened to me before, or I can relate to that in some way. And it was just so inspiring. And yeah, Bruce Lee is literally somebody that I look up to.
That is awesome. I'll have to get
Hmm.
the name and I'll put the show in a link in the show notes to that.
Yeah,
Because that is, yeah, that's fascinating.
I can't remember the name, but literally if you just type in Bruce Lee like in Netflix, it'll pop up. And I'm like, it was like 50 parts or 40 parts and like an hour, 40 minutes. I watched them all and I'm like, I just kept going and going. It was just so addicting. I'm like, I have to figure out or see what happens next.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you get into sports movies and
Yes.
documentary? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like The Last Dance. I'm like, do we have to wait until next week? Like, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah. That one was, and it got so, understandably though, like that team, that decade was just so powerful.
It's crazy. And because my dad, like, he can talk about it, but I was young, like a baby. So I just know now, like, Michael Jordan is that guy, or I see highlights and stuff. But to physically be able to watch him through that time, and I'm just like, this is the Michael Jordan everyone talks about. Like, I only know him from just a global icon in his sneakers and, the Chicago Bulls. I know he's a great player, one of the greatest or the greatest ever. And just being able to see that now, I'm just like, okay, Dad, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's so cool. And I think that's another part of sports that's so neat is like the generational connection that it creates. Like I can talk to my grandpa about sports like probably like nothing else. We can connect on that level about there's so many things that we couldn't really like understand each other about because of different times that we're growing up but I love that you and your dad were able to share that.
It's so cool, because a lot of people like, or kids now, it's just like, oh, they just see what's right in front of them, but it's just like being able to go back and see who was before them. Because I always think it's important to recognize those who came before you, because we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for the people before us and then the people before them. We're just helping as the generations go on. We're just trying to do our best to move forward. So
absolutely, 100%. I love that. Yeah, does your family are y'all fans of certain teams, or do you have like game day traditions or anything like that when your teams are playing?
So we don't really have like game day traditions. I mean, but we do watch. Sports are on in our house like all the time. My dad, he's a 49ers fan, and I'm still trying to figure out like why. I still don't understand why. But I mean, I really was a Brady fan. I still am, and so it's like rooting for the Patriots in the New England area. That's where I'm from. But it's just like, oh, it just hurts to see Brady in a different uniform. Like when I saw him playing the other day, I'm like, who is that? Oh gosh, I forgot, And so obviously because I'm a Brady fan, I want him to do well and I want his team to do well. But it's like, I think that's one of the hard things. Like, are you a fan of that person or are you a fan of that team? So like when they go to a different team, are you still rooting for the team they used to be on or the team, so I just feel like I'm in the middle between that.
No, that's so interesting. I think that's something that's so funny about sports as well. Like when it's a team sport but you have your favorite athletes, how do you do that? I mean, that's one of the like biggest conundrums or one of the more fun things about fantasy to me, because there are certain players and teams that I will not name that are on my no draft list. Like, not going to happen. I don't want any reason to pull for them ever. And then there are, like, I want my favorite quarterback, and I don't even like their team, but they're coming on my team, So that is so interesting, though.
Seriously, I mean, because sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I like Cam. I like Cam, and I'm just like, but it's just different because like I just see Brady there, I don't
history.
It's gotta cut.
Yeah, no, I've heard that actually Boston kind of has revolted against Brady a little bit. I don't know. That's from some sources. I'm sure it's all across the map of how people do it. But
mixed feelings from everyone.
Yeah, but I wonder too, like that just immediately I think of Britain and like when some of their favorite football players, soccer players on their teams leave, but they're so passionate about their specific team that they probably like start to hate that person. It's just like that tribal mentality of this is our community's team. This is, this stays, everything else goes, even players leave, eventually.
And then too, when like, people like players trade, like trade teams, and then the fans are going crazy and burning jerseys and mad, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I mean, everything with LeBron in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I said that, or thinking about.
That was crazy.
I'm just like, you can still root for him on another team. It's okay.
But then I think about like the Orlando City Soccer Club and the fan base there of like, when you leave the team, all bets are off. Like, we will chant at you. There's some bad blood with certain players, but it is so insane how, and that's the part of sports that I think can get out of control. Like Cleveland, I think got out of control for sure.
That was crazy.
Like when you turn it into hate, that's when it's like, I mean, I'm
Just
preaching to the choir. There's a certain team and players that I just do not like, but
yeah,
I'm not like burning things,
yeah.
so it's
I
interesting.
agree. Yeah, it's a slippery slope, man. It's just like, then when, people get hateful, like you take the fun out of what we all enjoy. Like, I kind of think sports is kind of like music. Like music is a universal language. And sports, I feel like is kind of like that as well, because no matter where you are in the world, you can connect with someone, if you guys just talking about sports in general. So you just take the love out of what we all enjoy watching when you turn it into like hateful or spitefulness.
Yeah. And not even just like talking about it, but it's something that like if you start talking about sport that I don't know about,
Hmm.
how easy is it for us to like, well, not currently with COVID, but like hop
Yeah,
outside and you show me or teach me, like it's one of those things that is so welcoming, I feel, or
exactly.
I would hope it would be that people, like you said, the universal language. I love that. I think that's so true.
I
There's also a
agree.
Netflix documentary called First Game, I think is what it's called. And it talks
Haven't
about all
seen.
these sports that are unique to their regions of the
Hmm.
world. That's been really cool to watch. I just started it, but it's pretty neat. Like just how there's some, I've never even heard of some of these sports. It's like they're so popular where people live.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, what are some, I mean, kind of what you just said, but
Hmm.
what are some of the positive things that sports bring to a community?
I would say unity for sure. Um, I just think like the vibes are just I don't know, like I feel like sports it just helps communities unite. It just allows people to have like a creative, I feel like in safe space. Because and when I say creative in a way, whatever the sport is, you can teach people different things that you might do in your game, if you guys play the same sport type of thing. And it's just like, oh, I never tried doing it like that. Like let me try to do it that way to see if it improves my game, or okay, I tried it, that doesn't work for me, so let me do what I've been doing. But I just feel like it creates a safe space for everyone to just be able to enjoy what you're doing, whether you're playing or you're watching. And then when everyone just feels the same way, whether it's like fourth quarter, 10 seconds left, I think sports are just amazing. I don't know what I would be doing without sports. So
Yeah, no, same. I would not be who I am today without them. That's for sure. And I was just thinking, there's so many events that happen through sports and music, like music festivals or something
hmm.
that do unite countries from around like the Olympics, the World Cups that
Yes.
happen all, there's probably a World Cup every year of some sport, but
Hmm.
it's amazing to think about what we can like lay aside and just come together and like you said have that unity.
Yeah.
It is so unique to sports and music. Like I'm thinking of music festival or like
Yeah, yeah,
those
yep.
singing Eurovision or whatever, where it's like every
Hmm.
country has their own. Yeah, that is something that's so special and so needed.
I just think that's a place where, like if you're playing a sport yourself, when you go to practice, you kind of like that's your place to get away from everything. And I feel like with sports, all the fans, everyone watching, like that's our space to be able to just watch and cheer on, and maybe not cheer on, and just to get away from like the day or whatever's going on, like together.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, that's kind of the hope of this whole podcast. It's like a sports break, like just take a break
Yeah.
for 30 minutes and just hear people chatting about sports. And like, if you love sports, we're hoping that there's something in every episode that you connect with because it is
Yeah.
so, it just reminds us of, I don't know, I know that it's now my career path, but also I just feel like it's something that's so calming to talk
Hmm.
about and like the chaos that is out there right now.
Yeah, I agree. Just take a break and just listen. I just think that's something America or the world just struggles with in general. Just listen. You know how they have the apps like Breathe or Calm. Take a part of your day and just do nothing. Whoever's listening, you can do that with this
There
right
you
now.
go. There you go. Yeah, I
Yes.
know. I mean, I think and it is, it just reminds us of the community that we're all missing. I think we're all
Hmm.
craving being in our communities and being
Exactly.
together. And I mean, this might be embarrassing, but just last night I was like going through my phone library and like looking
Mm-hmm.
at clips from like live music shows. I was just like, oh, it'd be so cool to be at a concert. And there was one of the entire crowd singing the song back to the singer. And it's just like, yes, like
Oh,
that's
wow.
the like chills that I miss of like, oh, a goal scored and everyone's going crazy. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think we're missing it.
We are, and that's the best, especially too, like music festivals. Like you can be there, not even know the person next to you, and you guys can just vibe out to the song, and it's just like you knew each other for your whole life, and it's just like, I think it's super cool. I think sports create that same like atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it does provide a place where like voices can be heard. I mean, I've been so amazed with the WNBA and like just I do feel like in women's sports in particular, there is this social justice movement because we're still trying to prove that like there's a place for us or for y'all, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
that you
Yeah.
deserve it. It should be there all along. But I too think that that's just such a crucial part of sports is that I mean, whoever started the like shut up and dribble stuff is just dead wrong. Like no, that is the
Yeah.
perfect place to be able to make a stand and say like I'm more than an athlete, I'm a person, I have a family, I have whatever, this is my job, but this is who I am. I don't know, I feel like I've been so impressed and proud and not really surprised at the
Yeah.
that they've been leading the way,
Hmm.
but really grateful. Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful, and I agree literally with everything you just said too. And I think that's one of the hardest things though about being a professional athlete, or not even professional, just maybe doing sports. Like people just expect you to just play your sport, but I feel like sometimes there's no detachment. Like, okay, yeah, they're a professional athlete, but they still have families, they still have an opinion just like everyone else. They still have freedom of speech, all of the above. And it's just like, but when you're watching them, it's like, I just expect you to do this and this only, and not speak about everything else that's going on in the world. And I feel like that's the slippery slope too, but just like you have to recognize we're human beings too, and we have a voice and we're going to use it, whether or not you're watching and you like what we say because you just want to stick to the sport part. It's just like, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to just get a package deal.
I agree, and I
Yeah.
think the best teams, I mean, I do think there's something about like European soccer where it's so ingrained in the town and the like. I mean, there's some of that with NFL teams of just like the
Mhm.
loyalty of season ticket holders, but I just feel like the way that there are small towns in England. I mean, I'm thinking of Lewis FC in particular, but
Okay.
that club is such a part of that community, and like they are a leader in that community by what they say and what they stand for and like the way that they use small businesses in their stadium and stuff like that. I don't know, I
Mhm.
just feel like it is a unique way to bring people together and
I agree.
talk about things that matter.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, I could talk for hours, but I do want to honor your time. Well, Gigi, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
chatting. Is there anything you want people to check out? Any ways for people to find you? Anything to plug about Got Game or anything?
Yeah, so if you guys want to see some actually have on a t-shirt.
Hey.
You can go to gotgame10.com and check out some merch, and the funds are actually used to help me on the women's tour, because like I said, I compete in non-traditional sports, so it's not a little but a lot different from NBA, NFL, tennis type of thing. And yeah, you can follow me. Actually, if you just go, I have a website as well, jasminemason.com. And that's where you can just see a little bit more about me. All my social media channels are on there, so I don't have to like list them all right now. And you can see different things I'm competing in, schedules, all the above. So I would just say those two websites.
Awesome. We will put those in the notes. Also, just had a thought. I got to ask. You just got interviewed by Robin Roberts, right?
Yeah.
What was that like? Talk about a hero. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was all glory to God, man. Like it's not possible without him. And I was just like, they were like, yeah, we want to you to come on and interview, and Robin Roberts is gonna, and I was like, who? I was like, who's interviewing me? So it was just super cool, and she's just so down to earth, loving, compassionate, individual. And I didn't even know that she bowled, and she was a state champ. So it's kind of nice that she has that affiliation with the sport, because there's some interviewers out there who don't. And so when they interview about bowling or talk about it, like, you could tell that they don't care, or they'll say what they have to say and kind of just like dismiss it as not being a sport. But she understands, and she gets it. And she actually bowled herself, and she said that was her dream, to be a professional bowler. So I was like living her dream, and it was just super cool. And her form was good for not bowling in a long time, and I'm just super grateful for the experience. It's not a lot of bowling going on during the pandemic. It was just nice for that to be there for the bowling community, for sure, and then the whole world to see like what we're about.
No, I loved it. And I was the
Yeah.
same way. I was like, yes, some attention, and like from
Thank you.
Robin Roberts. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So, well, congrats on that. And we will put
Thank you.
that link in as well, because
Okay.
amazing. But thanks again so much for joining today,
No.
and stay safe. And hopefully we'll see you on the tour next year
Yes,
sometime.
hopefully soon. Yes, and thank you so much, Ashley, for all that you do for all of us sport fans and just inspiring everyone. I really do appreciate you. So thank you again so much for your time.
Oh, thanks so much.
Of course.